A single warning echoed across the galaxy: do not attack humans. Most ignored it, but the species from Sol was about to prove everyone wrong. What seemed weak, divided, and fragile was actually unstoppable when threatened. Every strike against them became a lesson in adaptation, unity, and survival. The galaxy would never forget why the warning existed. Deep inside the Heliori Rift, far away from busy trade routes and glowing star cities, there existed an abandoned structure drifting in silence. It was known as the Vault of Zarn, a massive ancient archive left behind by a civilization that no longer existed. The Valorians had vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind only warnings, records, and broken monuments. Most species ignored these ruins, believing them to be relics of a fearful and primitive past. The vault was guarded by an old artificial intelligence called Cryon X. Its systems were damaged, its power fading, yet it continued its duty without emotion or rest. Over endless cycles, it scanned the galaxy, recording changes, wars, and the rise of new species. One record was marked with the highest priority classification, Directive Omega 9. This directive appeared again and again across different eras and languages. It was simple, direct, and frightening in its clarity. Do not attack humans. The message carried no dramatic explanation, no threats, only quiet certainty. The Valorians had written it after observing a young species from a small yellow star system called Terra Sol. At the time of the warning, humans were barely spacefaring, divided by borders, fighting among themselves. They looked weak, noisy, and reckless. Many later species found this confusing. Why would an advanced civilization fear such a chaotic species? The vault records showed that the Valorians had not feared human technology. They feared human behavior. Cryon AX replayed old observation logs, showing human history in fragments, wars that destroyed cities, followed by rebuilding stronger than before, disasters that wiped out millions, followed by rapid adaptation. Each crisis seemed to harden the species instead of breaking it. Humans learned faster under pressure, and when threatened, they united in ways few species ever could. The Valorians had studied hundreds of intelligent species before humanity. Most collapsed under prolonged stress. Some surrendered, others fractured. Humans were different. The records described them as emotionally volatile, yet stubbornly persistent. Capable of kindness one moment and terrifying resolve the next. When pushed to the edge, humans did not retreat. They pushed back. The vault also contained battle simulations run by the Valorians, hypothetical invasion scenarios where advanced fleets attacked early human civilizations. Every simulation ended the same way. At first, humans suffered massive losses. Cities burned, fleets were destroyed, populations fell. But then patterns changed. Human forces adapted, captured enemy technology, modified it, and used it with frightening creativity. What began as a clear victory for the attackers slowly turned into a long, costly nightmare. One record showed a Valorian strategist ending a simulation early, stating that victory over humans was possible, but survival afterward was uncertain. Even in defeat, humans would ensure their enemies paid a price that echoed for generations. The Valorians concluded that attacking humanity was never worth the cost. As time passed, the galaxy changed. New empires rose. Old ones fell. The warning remained, copied into scattered archives, half forgotten and often mocked. Younger species believed the Valorians were overly cautious or traumatized by their own extinction. They saw humans through intercepted broadcasts and crude early satellites, laughing at their internal conflicts and environmental damage. Cryon AX detected new activity beyond the vault, signals from a growing alien power, the Zorvath Dominion. Their scouts were mapping nearby sectors, analyzing emerging species. The AI recognized the pattern immediately. The same curiosity, the same arrogance, the same belief that strength alone determined survival. Within the vault, Cryon AX attempted to transmit Directive Omega 9 once more, broadcasting it into the void in dozens of languages. Most receivers ignored it or classified it as irrelevant data. A few archivists paused briefly, then moved on. Confident in their fleets and weapons, the vault continued drifting, silent and unseen, carrying the memory of a species that had learned its lesson too late. The warning was still there, unchanged and patient, waiting for someone to listen. But as new ships entered the Sol-adjacent sectors, it became clear that once again, the galaxy was about to ignore the message, and history was preparing to repeat itself. The Zorvath Dominion ruled a wide stretch of space near the outer spiral. known for its discipline, massive fleets, and belief that strength was the only true law of the galaxy. Their capital world, Zorvath Prime, was a fortress planet covered in towering spires and orbital weapons. From here, the High Conclave of 13 made decisions that reshaped star systems. Inside the conclave chamber, holographic stars rotated slowly as Overlord Threxel listened to reports. He was ancient by his species standards, his armor etched with symbols of conquered worlds. Before him floated fragments of data recovered from forgotten archives, including an old transmission labeled Directive Omega 9. The message was short and strange. Do not attack humans. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several council members displayed amusement, others irritation. To them, the warning felt insulting. Humans were a minor species from an unremarkable system, divided by politics, religion, and constant internal conflict. Their technology lagged behind the Dominion by centuries. The idea that such a species deserved a galaxy-wide warning seemed ridiculous. Strategist Korlath presented intercepted human signals. News broadcasts filled with arguments, footage of wars, pollution, and social unrest. He pointed out how humans struggled even to cooperate among themselves, let alone defend against an interstellar empire. The conclave nodded in agreement. In their experience, divided species fell quickly. One counselor suggested caution, mentioning that the warning appeared in multiple ancient records. But Overlord Threxel dismissed it with a sharp gesture. He argued that extinct civilizations often exaggerated threats to justify their own failures. The Valorians were gone. Their fear meant nothing. The Dominion would not allow myths to block expansion. The decision was made to gather intelligence. A recon fleet named Silent Verdict was assembled. Designed for stealth and speed, it would observe humanity without being detected. The scout ship Dagger of Dawn was chosen to lead the mission. Its hull absorbed radiation and bent light, making it nearly invisible against the stars. As the fleet entered the Kuiper shadow line at the edge of the Sol system, sensors activated quietly. The scouts watched Earth from afar. They saw fragile satellites orbiting the planet, primitive compared to Dominion constructs. They observed unshielded stations, slow cargo ships, and outdated defense platforms. Every scan reinforced their confidence. The scouts recorded human military exercises, noting inefficiency, political arguments delaying decisions, and outdated command structures. To the Zorvath observers, it looked like chaos pretending to be order. They sent reports back to Zorvath Prime, stating that humanity posed no serious threat. Still, fragments of the warning lingered in the data. One analyst noticed how quick humans responded to natural disasters, how industries shifted during emergencies, how enemies temporarily united during global crises. He flagged this as unusual, but the note was buried beneath pages of dismissive conclusions. On Zorvath Prime, Overlord Threxel reviewed the final report. The conclave gathered once more. The decision was no longer about caution, but pride. Ignoring the warning became a statement of dominance, a declaration that the Dominion feared nothing, especially not a young species tearing itself apart. The conclave authorized a limited strike, not an invasion, but a demonstration of power. They believed destroying a few human installations would force surrender without resistance. It would send a message to nearby systems. The Dominion expands, and no warning can stop it. Orders were transmitted across Dominion space. Fleets began to mobilize, weapons charged, navigational paths calculated. The Silent Verdict remained hidden, watching humanity live unaware of what was coming. Far away, the Vault of Zarn continued its silent drift. Cryon IX detected the increased traffic and fleet signatures. It tried once more to broadcast Directive Omega 9, amplifying the signal beyond normal limits. The message echoed briefly through the void before being filtered, ignored, or erased. The choice had been made. The Zorvath Dominion believed it was stepping toward easy conquest. Confident in its strength and blind to history, it moved forward, unaware that by ignoring a simple warning, it had already taken its first step toward something far more dangerous than defeat. The first strike came without warning. In the quiet space between Earth and the Moon, human sensors detected strange distortions seconds before everything went dark. The alien assault fleet known as the Crimson Ascendancy emerged from stealth, its ships massive, angular, and glowing with unfamiliar energy. At its center was the flagship World Ender Crawl, a vessel built not for battle alone, but for intimidation. The target was not Earth itself. The Zorvath Dominion wanted a controlled demonstration. They chose the Lunar Defense Grid Alpha, a network of stations protecting mining colonies and communication relays. The largest of these was Artemis Watchtower, a hub for civilian traffic and early warning systems. It was lightly armed, designed more for monitoring than combat. Captain Elias Monroe was on duty aboard Artemis Watchtower when alarms began to scream. At first, his crew thought it was a system malfunction. Then, the stars outside the viewport seemed to bend, and enormous shadows slid into view. Before any distress call could be completed, beams of concentrated energy tore through the station's hull. Artemis Watchtower broke apart in silence, metal, glass, and bodies drifting into the vacuum. Captain Monroe ordered an emergency broadcast toward Earth. The message was fragmented, but clear enough. Unknown hostile contact. Lunar grid under attack. That transmission became the first official record of humanity's entry into interstellar war. Across the moon's orbit, smaller stations were hit in rapid succession. The aliens moved with precision, disabling power cores and communication arrays. They avoided prolonged combat, striking fast and withdrawing before human defenses could respond effectively. To the Zorvath commanders, this was a clean operation. On Earth, confusion spread. Military leaders struggled to understand what was happening. Some believed it was a massive systems failure. Others feared a terrorist attack using unknown technology. Only when fragments of alien ships appeared on radar did the truth begin to sink in. As panic rose, the Crimson Ascendancy delivered its final message. A single orbital strike aimed not at a military base, but at New Jakarta Arcology, a coastal megacity housing millions. The attack was calculated, powerful enough to destroy infrastructure, but not wipe out the entire city. The aliens wanted fear, not extinction, at least not yet. The energy strike slammed into the Arcology's upper levels. Buildings collapsed, oceans rushed into broken districts, fires spread through streets packed with civilians. Emergency services were overwhelmed within minutes. News feeds across the planet filled with images of destruction, screaming, smoke, and a sky burning with alien light. The Zorvath observers expected chaos, surrender, and desperate pleas for negotiation. What they saw instead confused them. Governments declared emergencies within minutes. Militaries activated contingency plans long thought impossible. Enemies set aside conflicts, sharing satellites, intelligence, and command authority. Even as the city burned, factories across the world began shifting production. Civilian companies received emergency orders to manufacture weapons, armor, and spacecraft components. Scientists were pulled from research labs and placed into defense teams. The human response was messy, loud, and imperfect, but it was fast. In orbit, surviving human ships attempted to engage the retreating alien fleet. Their weapons barely scratched the enemy hulls. Several human vessels were destroyed in seconds, but pilots recorded everything. Energy signatures, movement patterns, weapon frequencies. Data mattered more than survival. The Crimson Ascendancy withdrew to a safe distance, leaving behind debris, wreckage, and thousands of dead. From their perspective, the mission was a success. They had demonstrated dominance, shattered key defenses, and proven that humanity was vulnerable. Reports sent back to Zorvath Prime described humans as panicked, disorganized, and technologically helpless. What those reports failed to mention was something harder to measure. Human communications were exploding with coordination, not despair. Engineers were already dissecting alien wreckage recovered from orbit. Military analysts were mapping attack patterns, and ordinary civilians were lining up to donate blood, supplies, and labor. In the ruins of New Jakarta Arcology, survivors pulled each other from debris. Volunteers arrived from across borders that had once been closed. The attack had not broken humanity. It had focused it. Far from Earth, aboard the World Ender Kral, Overlord Threxel reviewed footage of the strike. He was satisfied. The warning of the ancients seemed laughable now. Humans bled like any other species. Their defenses crumbled under real power. Yet even as the alien fleet turned away, human sensors continued tracking them, recording every movement, every energy fluctuation. Every second of the attack was being studied, archived, and shared. The first strike was over. The galaxy believed humanity had been taught a lesson. But on Earth, amid fire and loss, something else was happening. A line had been crossed, and humanity had begun to pay attention. Humanity's response to the first strike was immediate and fierce. Across continents, emergency alerts blared as governments enacted Iron Unity, a protocol designed for coordinated planetary defense. Military bases opened every command channel. Civilian industries shifted to producing weapons and armor. Scientists, engineers, and programmers who had once worked on peaceful projects were drafted into war production. Every available human resource focused on survival and counterattack. The Earth Defense Coalition, or EDC, became the central authority for strategy, uniting nations that had spent centuries in conflict. Admiral Sarah Caldwell, the supreme commander of EDC, assumed control over all space operations. She was known for her calm decisiveness and ability to coordinate large-scale efforts under extreme stress. With her team of commanders, she began assessing the alien fleet's movements and weaknesses. Dr. Aaron Voss, a leading scientist in energy weapons, worked around the clock to analyze alien technology from recovered debris. His team discovered unusual energy patterns and propulsion systems that could be reverse engineered. Project Black Halo was initiated, a top-secret effort to retrofit human spacecraft with captured alien technology. Engineers modified weapons to fire faster, shields were strengthened, and communication networks were upgraded to operate across vast distances without delay. Every refitted vessel carried a small team of specialists who could adapt and reprogram alien systems mid-battle. The first ship completed under Project Black Halo was the HSS Resolute, designed for rapid engagement and reconnaissance. Human pilots trained day and night, learning to anticipate alien attack patterns. Tactical exercises simulated the Dominion's strategies, forcing human crews to adapt continuously. Civilians volunteered to ferry supplies, repair damaged ships, and maintain infrastructure. The rapid mobilization amazed outside observers who intercepted transmissions. Humans who had been underestimated suddenly displayed speed, coordination, and resourcefulness far beyond expectations. Meanwhile, alien forces prepared for a second engagement, expecting disorganization and fear. Their calculations were based on old intelligence, assuming that humanity could not react cohesively under pressure. The Crimson Ascendancy returned to the Sol system, ready to continue the campaign. Yet what they encountered was something they had not anticipated. Human ships were faster. Their targeting was more precise, and their tactics unpredictable. The EDC coordinated multi-layered defense strategies. Combining orbital intercepts with ground-based missile arrays, evacuation routes were secured, and civilian fleets were given protective escorts. Project Black Halo ships tested energy weapons designed to exploit weaknesses observed in the Dominion fleet. Even older human warships were retrofitted with improved shields, allowing them to survive direct alien bombardment long enough to gather vital combat data. On Earth, news of the alien attacks spread quickly. Instead of panic, it united people across borders. Cities coordinated energy consumption, production of weapons, and medical relief. Universities, factories, and private companies joined in, sharing technology, information, and manpower. Even small communities contributed, building makeshift defenses, operating drones, and scouting alien movements. The human response was chaotic but extraordinarily effective, combining improvisation with strategy. Admiral Caldwell's command center was a hub of constant activity. Analysts tracked every alien ship in real time. Using advanced simulations, they predicted movements and counterattacks. Tactical decisions were relayed instantly to the fleet through encrypted channels. A network of remote sensors and satellites allowed humans to anticipate ambushes and adapt quickly. Every victory, no matter how small, boosted morale and refined tactics. Dr. Voss discovered that alien energy shields could be overloaded with rapid-fire pulses. A prototype weapon was built and installed on the HSS Resolute. Test runs showed that even small human vessels could temporarily disable sections of enemy shields. This revelation allowed the EDC to plan precision strikes that would reduce human casualties while maximizing damage to the Dominion fleet. Each improvement was shared across the fleet within hours, making humans more dangerous with every engagement. As the Dominion fleet approached Earth again, they expected weak resistance and quick surrender. Instead, they faced a planet-wide mobilization. Ships launched simultaneously from multiple orbital stations, coordinated strikes disrupted alien formations, and ground defenses fired in unison with orbital attacks. Even civilians in transport vessels contributed, scanning for weak points and relaying data to combat ships. The humans were not perfect, but they adapted faster than the aliens could calculate. Each day, humans learned more about Dominion tactics, shields, and weapons. They lost ships, suffered casualties, and endured destruction. But with every strike, their understanding grew. What the Dominion had assumed would be a demonstration of dominance became a real test of human ingenuity and resilience. The second engagement marked a turning point. Humans no longer reacted. They acted proactively, striking at alien supply lines, exploiting weaknesses, and defending with unmatched coordination. The EDC proved that humanity's strength was not in advanced weapons alone, but in unity, adaptation, and the ability to turn adversity into opportunity. For the first time, the Dominion began to question whether they had underestimated a species that seemed fragile, but was, in reality, unstoppable. Ancient history began to resurface as the Dominion pressed its attack. Within the debris of abandoned archives and long-forgotten records, the Vault of Zarn had preserved lessons from species that had underestimated humanity before. The EDC discovered fragments of simulations and reports from extinct civilizations like the Krell, the Osun, and the Valorians. Each record told the same story. Attack humans, and your empire will pay a cost far beyond calculation. Elder Sevrak, an alien historian attached to the Dominion's intelligence division, was tasked with analyzing these records. At first, he assumed them to be exaggerations, stories written by frightened species who had failed in conflict. But as he read through energy signatures, battle simulations, and ancient warnings, a pattern emerged. The simulations were consistent. Humanity survived under conditions that destroyed others. They adapted faster, learned continuously, and organized against overwhelming odds. The warning that humans were adaptive predators began to haunt the minds of Dominion officers. Reports from the first strike were compared with ancient patterns, and the similarity was undeniable. Humanity's response was not reckless. It was methodical under stress. Every defeat in history had forced humans to change their strategy. Every empire that attacked without understanding them eventually fell. The Dominion found themselves facing a species that was chaotic on the surface, but highly coordinated beneath. Ships captured or destroyed became sources of knowledge. Every engagement provided new tactical insights. Humans did not rely on luck or brute force alone. They analyzed, experimented, and modified in real time. Alien leaders began to panic as simulations showed losses multiplying even when humans were heavily outnumbered. Within the EDC, Admiral Caldwell studied ancient alien tactics recovered from wreckage. She noticed that humans were unconsciously repeating patterns the Valorians had once predicted. The way humans improvised during attacks, modified weapons mid-battle, and coordinated civilians with military operations mirrored simulations thousands of years old. Dr. Voss remarked that humans were learning faster than any previous species. Almost as if evolution had accelerated under extreme pressure. Across Dominion command centers, the term existential species began circulating. It was a designation previously reserved for threats capable of wiping out multiple civilizations. Humans now qualified. Even those who had mocked the ancient warning began to reconsider. The simulations from Krell, Osun, and Valorian archives showed that previous underestimation had led to catastrophic consequences. Whole fleets had been destroyed, entire worlds abandoned, and species forced into extinction because they ignored warnings about humans. Alien morale began to fracture. Some factions demanded immediate retreat, fearing history repeating itself. Others argued for negotiations or surrender. The Dominion's pride and arrogance were challenged by the evidence. Elder Sevrak insisted that any attempt to dominate humanity without understanding them would be disastrous. Yet overconfidence among younger commanders made them ignore these warnings, believing the humans' previous destruction of Lunar Defense Grid Alpha had proven them weak. Meanwhile, the EDC continued to grow stronger with every engagement. Humans did not seek revenge beyond necessity. They adapted, innovated, and learned from the Dominion's movements. Each encounter provided data that was quickly shared across fleets. Civilians contributed by manufacturing weapons, scanning energy signatures, and providing intelligence. The collaboration between ordinary people and military units created an unexpectedly powerful synergy. The ancient records became a mirror for the Dominion, showing what could happen if they continued aggression. Every scenario ended with the attackers facing heavy losses. unexpected resistance, and strategic failures. Yet, overconfidence kept some alien leaders pressing forward, ignoring the lessons of history, believing their experience and technology were enough to overcome a species they still thought fragile. The EDC recognized the value of the archives, not for intimidation, but for strategy. They studied alien simulations, past invasion failures, and tactics of extinct civilizations. Applying ancient knowledge to current battles allowed humans to predict Dominion maneuvers, anticipate attacks, and counter with precision. Even small victories in these skirmishes had a psychological impact on the Dominion, causing hesitation and fear among their ranks. As the Dominion fleet continued to approach key human colonies, panic and caution spread unevenly among alien leaders. Some began advocating retreat, citing the evidence from history. Others, blinded by pride, argued for immediate assault. Humanity had become an enigma, both terrifying and unpredictable. What had once been a warning, dismissed as myth, now gained undeniable relevance. The echoes of past extinctions reminded the galaxy that underestimating humans was a mistake no empire could afford to repeat. Humanity shifted from defense to offense with precision and focus. Task Force Nightfall became the spear of human retaliation. A fleet of elite ships equipped with retrofitted alien technology moved through space with coordinated speed. Each vessel carried specialized units known as Void Marines, trained to board, sabotage, and capture enemy craft. Admiral Sarah Caldwell oversaw the operation from the HSS Black Sentinel, coordinating attacks across multiple sectors. Every decision measured, deliberate, and informed by data gathered from prior engagements. Operation Silent Reckoning was launched, a carefully timed counterattack designed to disrupt Dominion supply lines and communications. Intelligence from recovered alien wreckage allowed human forces to anticipate fleet movements, targeting relay stations and weak points in energy shields. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, a rising star among human pilots, led daring strikes into heavily guarded sectors, his squadron moving like shadows, disabling enemy defenses and returning with valuable tactical information. The Dominion had not expected humans to fight with such organization beyond their home system. Ships that had seemed unstoppable now faced guerrilla-style assaults in deep space. Attack vectors were unpredictable, often coordinated with civilian efforts. Space stations and planetary outposts served as relay points, feeding information in real time to the fleet. Humans created traps, feints, and ambushes that alien commanders had never anticipated. Their adaptation was instantaneous, learning from each engagement and adjusting strategy on the fly. Human engineers had perfected the use of alien technology against its creators. Captured weapons were dismantled, studied, and rebuilt to be faster and more effective. Shield generators were modified to handle higher energy loads, allowing smaller ships to withstand strikes that once would have destroyed them. Tactical drones scouted enemy formations, feeding live data back to command centers, and even civilian ships were outfitted with improvised weapons to contribute to the collective effort. The Dominion's Zorvath Prime Relay, a massive supply and communication hub, became a primary target. Task Force Nightfall executed a coordinated strike that disabled key energy nodes and destroyed multiple support vessels. The loss forced the Dominion to retreat temporarily, scrambling to restore their command network. Every retreat was monitored, and humans studied the alien reactions, preparing for the next engagement. This methodical approach frustrated alien commanders who relied on brute force over strategy. Meanwhile, planetary defenses synchronized with orbital fleets, creating a multi-layered network of offense and protection. Surface-based missiles, energy cannons, and laser arrays complemented the movements of human ships in orbit. Coordination extended to civilian infrastructure, where volunteers provided intelligence, repaired damaged systems, and maintained communications. The level of collaboration across human society was unprecedented, turning every individual into a contributor to the war effort. Lieutenant Marcus Hale's squadron carried out a high-risk boarding operation on the Dominion vessel Obsidian Fang. Using stealth tactics, they infiltrated the ship, sabotaging engines and energy cores. The mission was costly, with casualties among the Void Marines, but it crippled the alien vessel and provided critical intelligence on fleet coordination. The human fleet used this information immediately. Adjusting their maneuvers to exploit vulnerabilities in other ships, alien morale began to waver as Task Force Nightfall continued its operations. Ships that had once moved confidently now hesitated. Their formations became disjointed, and communication errors multiplied. The humans were relentless, striking fast, withdrawing, and studying the effects. Each successful operation reinforced the belief that the Dominion was not invincible. And every failure by alien forces was meticulously analyzed to improve human tactics. Humanity's strategy relied not only on firepower, but on unpredictability. Information warfare became a key element. Disrupting Dominion communications, planting false signals, and manipulating sensor readings allowed humans to control the battlefield without direct confrontation in some cases. Civilians played a role in decoding alien signals and preparing rapid responses, transforming Earth into a living, adaptive war network. The counterattack demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to learn and adapt. Even when facing superior technology, humans could turn the enemy's power against them. With every mission, Task Force Nightfall grew more efficient, more daring, and more coordinated. The Dominion began to realize that underestimating humanity had been a fatal mistake. Their victories were no longer assured, and the balance of power in the sector was shifting rapidly. By the end of Operation Silent Reckoning, several key Dominion positions had been destroyed or compromised. Alien fleets were forced to retreat and regroup. Human losses were significant but strategically minimized. The EDC proved that humans could take the fight to the enemy, combining ingenuity, courage, and cooperation in ways no other species had ever achieved. Humanity had turned from prey into predator, and the galaxy had begun to notice. The Dominion's once confident fleets began to fracture under constant pressure. The Tri-Star Coalition, an alliance of alien species that had joined the Zorvath Dominion, faced internal dissent as losses mounted. Some species, like the Morel Syndics, began questioning the wisdom of attacking humans. Their ships lingered at the edge of battle zones, hesitant to engage, while others, bound by pride or fear, continued to push forward, creating confusion within the ranks. Ambassador Lyra Kor, a diplomatic envoy from the Morel Syndics, attempted to initiate communication with human command, warning that continued attacks could result in complete annihilation of their species. Admiral Sarah Caldwell considered the offer carefully. Understanding the value of information, she allowed limited channels to open, not for negotiation, but to gather intelligence and sow doubt among the alien fleets. The final confrontation unfolded in the Ashen Expanse sector, a cluster of star systems scarred by ancient battles. The Dominion attempted to concentrate forces to crush human defenses, expecting a decisive victory, yet humanity had anticipated this move. Deploying fleets with precise coordination, humans had learned from every encounter, adapting tactics that exploited alien weaknesses. Their ships moved unpredictably, striking key supply lines, command vessels, and energy hubs simultaneously. Alien fleets found themselves disoriented. Orders conflicted as different factions disagreed on strategy. Some advocated retreat, fearing history repeating itself. Others clung to pride and pressed the attack. The Dominion's once unified chain of command began to collapse. Ships lost cohesion, formations broke apart, and vulnerability grew. Human forces observed calmly, striking where enemy defenses were weakest. The balance of power shifted with every maneuver. On board the HSS Black Sentinel, Admiral Caldwell coordinated every human move. Data from reconnaissance drones, captured vessels, and civilian networks flowed into her command center. Analysts predicted alien responses based on patterns observed in past battles. Project Black Halo ships were deployed to intercept key alien vessels. Overloaded shields and energy surges disabled enemy ships without unnecessary destruction, maximizing strategic gain while minimizing human casualties. Lutcher Marcus Hale led daring attacks into the heart of the Dominion formation. Void Marines boarded critical vessels, sabotaging engines and weapons. Entire alien squadrons were incapacitated without losing a single human ship in direct combat. Tactical brilliance and adaptability made humans unpredictable. The Dominion could not anticipate the next move. Each encounter left alien commanders frustrated and fearful. The Oblivion Spear Armada, a massive alien fleet, attempted to counter human advances with overwhelming firepower. Yet, humans employed feints, ambushes, and diversionary tactics, drawing parts of the fleet away before striking critical points. Civilian vessels contributed by maintaining sensor networks and relaying real-time intelligence. The galaxy had never witnessed such integration of civilian and military coordination. Alien morale collapsed. Some species surrendered to human forces, preferring survival to futile resistance. Others fled into uncharted sectors, abandoning fleets and resources. Prideful commanders who refused to retreat were destroyed in decisive strikes. Their fleets wiped out completely, leaving no trace. Humanity did not pursue them unnecessarily, demonstrating a balance of strength and restraint that only amplified fear among surviving alien forces. Broadcasts from human command reached Dominion fleets. Messages repeated calmly, "Stand down and live." These communications further demoralized alien troops, showing humans as measured, intelligent, and merciful in victory. Confusion spread through alien ranks, decision-making slowed, and infighting intensified. Task Force Nightfall maintained constant pressure, ensuring the alien coalition could not reorganize. By the end of the Ashen Expanse engagement, the Dominion and its allies had fractured beyond repair. Remaining ships retreated, leaving behind supplies, weaponry, and stranded personnel. The Tri-Star Coalition ceased to exist as a unified force. Humanity had not only defended its territory, but had shattered a major galactic power. The lessons from ancient archives, the adaptability of human forces, and their relentless innovation had combined to produce a victory that would echo across the stars. Admiral Caldwell ordered her fleet to hold positions and assess the aftermath. Human casualties were significant, but strategically limited. Civilian infrastructure had survived remarkably intact, and the global coordination network remained operational. Humanity had demonstrated that even in the face of a superior enemy, careful planning, rapid adaptation, and unified action could achieve what seemed impossible. The galaxy had taken notice. Whispers spread among surviving alien species about the humans of Terra Sol. No longer seen as weak or disorganized, they were recognized as a species capable of enduring anything, adapting to every threat, and defeating forces far stronger than themselves. The Ashen Expanse sector became a symbol, a testament to humanity's resilience and strategic genius, marking a point where empires realized that ignoring warnings about humans was a fatal mistake. The battle was over, and the galaxy began to take stock of what had happened. Humanity had survived, adapted, and prevailed against a coalition that had believed them weak and easy to conquer. From the ashes of conflict, a new understanding emerged. The ancient warning, once ignored, now made perfect sense. Humans were not merely fighters or conquerors. They were a species defined by resilience, unity, and the ability to learn faster than any known civilization. The Edict of Survival 001 was drafted in Interstellar archives, codifying what every species should now understand. Do not attack humans, not because they were cruel, not because they sought revenge, but because they were unpredictable and relentless. Their capacity for adaptation made conventional calculations of power meaningless. Empires that underestimated them could face ruin. No matter how advanced or numerous, memorials were constructed on worlds throughout human space. The most notable was Terra Nova Prime, a planet dedicated to remembering both the human dead and the lessons learned from ancient galactic history. Statues, plaques, and digital archives recorded the victories, the innovations, and the sacrifices. A message was sent across the galaxy, not of vengeance, but of warning. Humanity would defend itself, and any who attacked would face consequences beyond imagination. Alien civilizations that had survived the conflict began to study human tactics with fascination. Universities and military academies examined the way humans had integrated civilian and military networks. How Project Black Halo had turned captured alien technology against its creators. How Task Force Nightfall had combined precision strikes, psychological warfare, and adaptability. Humanity's approach became a case study in strategy, resilience, and innovation. Even among those who had fled or surrendered, respect and fear grew. The last recorded message from surviving Zorvath commanders admitted defeat quietly. We should have listened. It was not merely a surrender, but recognition that the ancient warning had been true. Every attempt to dominate humanity without understanding them had been a mistake. The galaxy slowly acknowledged that humans were not monsters to be feared for cruelty, but forces to be respected for their endurance and intelligence. Within human society, the victory reshaped identity. Nations no longer viewed themselves in isolation. Global coordination and trust in collective decision-making had proven effective beyond anything previous generations had imagined. Science, industry, and military strategy were now permanently integrated. Lessons from the Dominion conflict inspired new technologies, infrastructure, and preparedness for future threats. Humanity was united not by fear, but by experience, skill, and the will to survive. Diplomatic relations with alien species began cautiously, but with mutual respect. Humans extended offers of assistance and trade to former adversaries who had surrendered, demonstrating that strength was paired with restraint, that victory did not require cruelty beyond necessity. The galaxy learned a critical lesson. True power lay not only in weapons or numbers, but in the ability to adapt, to coordinate, and to endure pressures that might break lesser species. The reputation of humanity spread quickly. Across countless star systems, whispers of the unbroken species circulated. Tales of Task Force Nightfall, the HSS Black Sentinel, and Admiral Sarah Caldwell became part of interstellar legend. Schools taught the history of the Ashen Expanse sector and Operation Silent Reckoning, and every message, every memorial, every archive emphasized the same principle. Humanity must never be tested. Ignoring warnings about them was a risk no civilization could afford. In the years that followed, humanity continued to explore, expand, and innovate. Their fleets became guardians of peace rather than instruments of conquest. The galaxy began to operate with the understanding that humans were not aggressors by nature. But once provoked, they could reshape the outcome of war through intelligence, unity, and resilience. The warning, once forgotten, had become the foundation of interstellar caution. Do not attack humans. The lesson was clear, and the galaxy would never forget it. Peace settled unevenly across the stars. Yet humanity's presence was now synonymous with survival, innovation, and endurance. The species that once seemed insignificant now held a permanent place in galactic history. Not as tyrants, but as the unbroken. The ancient vault of Zarn, silent and drifting, had predicted this outcome. Its warning validated. Humanity had proven itself, and the galaxy had finally learned why the message had existed in the first place.